Good evening. They've mobilised at Gore, they've marched in Dunedin, and today it was Cromwell's turn to stand up and fight to save its hospital. Residents of Cromwell and the Upper Clutha told Otago Area Health Board Chairman Michael Cooper in no uncertain terms why they won't give it up. Michael Lynch reports.
An overflow council chambers greeted Health Board Chairman Michael Cooper this afternoon in Cromwell. They're bitter Cromwell's already lost its maternity unit, and under the Health Board funding cuts now stands to lose its hospital too.
We could, in fact, release about $600,000 a year if we closed Cromwell Hospital and moved the services to Dunstan. It would, in addition to the $600,000 a year, which is $600,000 in real terms this year, next year and every other year, we would, of course, be able to realise the capital value of Cromwell Hospital itself. Now, that $600,000 a year is about 300 operations.
But Professor Cooper's cutting little ice in Cromwell, or in Wanaka or Terrace or Haast for that matter.
We tried long and hard to retain our maternity annex here, and unfortunately I feel that this is sort of the domino game, and the domino has started to fall, and this is just another one of those dominoes that's going to fall over. And let's hope like hell that we can fight and preserve this. Whichever way we go about it will be to the betterment of this area.
Simply, they don't want to lose their hospital in Cromwell. They've little faith in the Gorge Road down to the Clyde Hospital staying open. In fact, today the board was accused of being prejudiced in favour of Clyde and Alexandra over Cromwell. Yet up the other way in Queenstown, the new $8 million unit there is being eyed for a takeover by the Otago Health Board. Cromwell and the Upper Clutha feel the meat in the sandwich. They know they can be isolated, they want their hospital, and they say they'll fight to keep it.
Meanwhile, the committee fighting to retain surgery at Gore Hospital says it will take the Southland Area Health Board to court if it reduces or closes facilities at the hospital. The committee has obtained legal advice that there could be grounds for a judicial review by the High Court. It's threatened the action in a letter to the Health Board. Meanwhile, the board's waiting until after next week's budget to finally decide what cuts will be necessary. This morning's earthquake was the strongest experienced along Otago's east coast for 15 years. It was felt from Belclutha to Oamaru, but appears to have caused no damage. The seismograph at the University of Otago registered about 4.3 on the Richter scale, giving those of us in the south a taste of what's been worrying people in the Bay of Plenty recently. Scientists are blaming movement along the Akature Fault south of Dunedin. June's unemployment figures released today show a significant increase in the number of unemployed in both Dunedin and in Invercargill. There are 2,000 more unemployed in both regions than in the month of May. According to the Dunedin branch of the New Zealand Employment Service, seasonal layoffs in the freezing industry largely account for the increase. Solo, the long-distance penguin, is at a new home in North Otago tonight after his or her latest voyage. Kim Hurring met the yellow-eyed penguin at Dunedin Airport, where it was en route to a more natural habitat.
Solo flew in the belly of a much bigger bird around noon today and was met by Department of Conservation officers. It's not known yet if the yellow eyes are she or a he, but the latest information is that it might be a boy bird. Solo was first found at the Wellington ferry terminal, and after 12 days in zoo, he was flown to Christchurch to be returned to the wild. But it seemed he'd taken a liking for humans and apparently swam all the way back to Wellington. The boomerang bird is now being released much further away. It seemed very happy in Wellington, so why couldn't it just stay there?
Well, one of the problems, of course, is it's the world's rarest penguin, and numbers are very low, and in that area it's right outside the breeding range of the bird, and really every bird is important from a population point of view, and if it's there, it can't contribute at all to the breeding viability of the species.
This afternoon, Solo was taken to his new home and let out of his travel box. The Department of Conservation is concerned to keep people away from Solo. They say he needs to go cold turkey on humans and learn to be a penguin again. To that end, Solo's moving in with Sludge. She's another yellow eye, but recently ran into a bit of trouble with some oil. Sludge is being nursed back to health, and it's hoped Solo and Sludge will help each other.
Otago University students today demonstrated their opposition to the proposed increase in fees, which could rise from an average of $150 to as much as $2,000. But although students say those with parental backing will be able to afford the increase, there's concern for those who are not well off. As Kathy Graham reports, students already struggling to make ends meet say it could put an end to their university careers.
Students like Kim Barlow, living away from home without parental support, are worried an increase in fees will make it impossible to carry on with their studies. Until she turned 20 a few weeks ago, Kim was living on a bursary of $65 a week. That meant she couldn't make ends meet.
I'm about $1,000 in debt at the moment.
And if they do put the fees up next year to $1,500 or possibly even $2,000, what will that mean?
That will mean that I'll have to pay off my debt with my job that I'm going to get theoretically over the holidays, and also have to pay this, which means $2,500 before I even start school next year.
Like most students over 20, Kim now qualifies for a bursary of $108 a week. But there are students who get nothing. Justin Wall's a fourth-year dentistry student. His bursary ran out a year and a half ago. Now the banks have stopped lending.
Coming up against a bit of antagonism from the banks now, because there are 8 others in my class in a similar position, and we really have run to the limit, I think.
So what sort of debts do you have now?
Well, in the thousands. I am around $7,500.
Maori Liaison Officer Kyla Camp's already concerned about students who are finding it hard to cope away from home. She keeps a cupboard in her office stocked with food supplies for emergencies like delays in grants payments. Any increase in fees will put even more pressure on students without parental support. Will we be talking about students having to drop out?
Yes.
How many?
I would say at the moment of those whom I know are first years that I deal with, probably at least 50 to 60%.
Has it forced you to look at the possibility of dropping out?
Definitely. And I can't go on getting into debt like this with no guarantee of another job when I get out.
Well, I'll just have to carry on going into debt, because the option for me, of course, is to withdraw from a professional course and go onto the dole queue. And I think that I get no assistance whatsoever, so I really just have to knuckle under and see if I can get through.
When Justin does graduate, he estimates his debts will be $15,000. For Kim, it could be the end of her university career.
Just before we go tonight, good news for rugby fans who'll be at Saturday's Test match. They'll find a new dimension has been added to watching the game. The installation of a giant television screen at Carisbrook will allow them to watch all the action replays during the match. The screen weighs 28 tonnes and it's from Britain. It's been used at major grounds throughout New Zealand, but it's the first time it's ever been to Dunedin. Should be exciting stuff on Saturday. We'll be back for the best day of the working week tomorrow with the South Tonight. Good night.